The first time Michael Carter noticed how quiet his house had become, it was the silence that broke him, not the loneliness. It settled into the corners of his modern glass-walled home like dust, untouched and stubborn, whispering reminders of everything he had lost and everything he was failing to replace. Standing in the doorway of the living room, tie still tight around his throat after a 16-hour workday, he wondered how a man could run a billion-dollar company and still feel powerless in his own home. What would you do if success cost you warmth, laughter, and the simple sound of a child feeling safe? Michael was a single father, a widower by fate rather than choice, raising his 7-year-old daughter Ava in a world that admired his ambition but never saw his exhaustion. The media praised him as a visionary CEO, a disciplined leader who rebuilt a collapsing tech firm into an empire. But behind closed doors, the truth was quieter and heavier. Ava missed her mother in ways she didn't know how to explain, and Michael carried guilt he didn't know how to set down. He worked because working was easier than feeling, and he parented the best he could while constantly fearing it was not enough. If you were in his place, would you admit you were drowning, or would you keep pretending strength was the same as survival? The invitation that changed everything came wrapped in obligation rather than desire. A prestigious charity gala required a public appearance, and the board strongly suggested he arrive with a companion to soften his image and reassure investors that his life was stable. Michael scoffed at the idea of appearances, but the pressure was relentless. One night. That was all it would be. A professional arrangement, nothing more. He found Sarah Bennett through an agency that specialized in polished companionship, a woman with kind eyes, a calm presence, and a resume built on discretion rather than intimacy. She agreed to one evening, no complications, no attachments. That was the plan, simple and controlled, just the way Michael liked his life. When Sarah stepped into the house that evening, the air shifted in a way Michael hadn't anticipated. She didn't rush or perform, she noticed things. She smiled at the crooked family photo still hanging by the staircase, paused to admire Ava's crayon drawings taped unevenly to the fridge, and spoke with a warmth that felt practiced yet genuine. Michael told himself it meant nothing. But Ava, watching quietly from behind the couch, felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, fragile and dangerous, fluttered in her chest like a bird unsure if it was safe to land. The night unfolded smoothly, yet the most important moment happened before they ever left the house. Ava slipped her small hand into Sarah's without warning, looking up at her with eyes too wise for her age. In that silent exchange, something unspoken passed between them, a plea, a promise, a question neither of them was ready to answer. Michael noticed it, felt it, and dismissed it as coincidence. But deep down, a crack formed in the wall he had built around his heart. At the gala, Sarah moved effortlessly through the room, not as an accessory but as a presence. She listened, laughed softly, and never once made Michael feel like he was performing. For the first time in years, he felt seen as a man rather than a title. The evening ended without scandal or spectacle, exactly as planned. But plans have a way of unraveling when emotions get involved, and Michael sensed that the cost of pretending might be higher than he was willing to pay. Back at the house, as Sarah prepared to leave, Ava appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, hair tangled and eyes heavy with sleep. She walked down slowly, clutching her stuffed rabbit, and wrapped her arms around Sarah's waist with a quiet desperation that stopped everyone in the room. Ava asked her to never leave, not with words, but with the kind of raw need that only a child who has lost too much can express. Sarah knelt, holding her gently, and Michael felt something inside him fracture and heal at the same time. If your child asked for something your heart knew was impossible, would you protect them from disappointment or risk everything for their happiness? Sarah left that night, because she had to. The arrangement was over, and boundaries mattered. But the house felt colder than ever, and Ava's laughter dimmed into something cautious and distant. Michael tried to return to normal, burying himself in meetings and deadlines, yet every empty evening echoed with regret. He replayed that moment over and over, wondering if he had mistaken safety for solitude, and strength for avoidance. Weeks passed before Michael reached out again, not as a CEO or a client, but as a father who finally admitted he didn't have all the answers. Sarah returned slowly, carefully, not to fill a role but to explore a possibility. They spent time together without pretense, cooking simple meals, helping Ava with homework, sharing silences that felt peaceful rather than awkward. Healing didn't arrive all at once, it came in small, uneven steps, in shared grief and quiet understanding. Michael learned that vulnerability wasn't weakness, and Sarah learned that staying didn't always mean losing yourself. Ava changed too. Her smile returned in fragments, then fully, as trust rebuilt itself piece by piece. She laughed louder, slept better, and stopped watching the door so closely. The house filled with sound again, not forced or perfect, but real. Michael still carried the past with him, but it no longer defined every step forward. He understood now that love wasn't about replacing what was lost, but honoring it while making room for something new. Just before the story reaches its end, pause for a moment and ask yourself this, and share your thoughts in the comments below. If love showed up in your life when you least expected it, would you have the courage to let it stay? In the end, Michael realized that the most powerful decisions are rarely the ones that protect us from pain, but the ones that allow us to feel again. Sarah stayed, not because she was asked, but because she chose to. And Ava, held safely between two hearts willing to grow, learned that goodbyes are not the only endings life offers. If this story stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of love lost, love found, or love you're still hoping for, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, but only if it truly touched your heart.